Money FM 89.3. Best of breakfast. Companies to watch.
Yes, the time of the day to look at your shopping list for what to look, or put in your cart in the stock market. And helping us out this morning is Diligent Dan.
And good morning, reinvigorating Ryan. Yeah, that's a new start because I haven't really had lots of companies to watch episodes with you, haven't I?
Not in recent days. Yeah, you prefer Audrey somehow. I'm not sure why, but yeah.
I do prefer her sometimes, yes, for the relevant topics. But it's good to have you back on. Welcome to Companies to Watch. That's a segment where we spotlight and stock you up with ideas of listed companies that will call for your attention. So we're looking at market trends to risks as well as hidden gems or warning signs to steer clear of. 8855-0893. Text us and tell us whether you think it's going to be a hot or not. Okay, you ready, Ryan?
Let's go.
We're turning our attention over to Japan's largest steelmaker, also known as the fourth largest in the world. So from high-quality, high-performance bars and rods to a wide range of industries, including the automotive, construction, and industrial machinery industries, we're talking about Nippon Steel. That's a familiar name within the manufacturing industry. And just recently, Ryan, they've closed its $14.1 billion takeover of United States Steel. That's concluding an 18-month saga that became heavily politicized before the deal finally won U.S. President Donald Trump's support.
So would you say $14.1 billion is a steal?
Hey, very good.
We'll unpack
right?
it to see if it makes sense.
That's very good. So, yes, Nippon Steel's $55 a share acquisition creates the world's second largest steel maker and turns the combined entity into a formidable competitor within the American steel industry. Of course, the biggest manufacturer now would be the ones in China, but let's stick to what we have right here, Nippon Steel. U.S. Steel will retain its name and its Pittsburgh headquarters, issuing a golden share to the U.S. government, and most board members will be U.S. citizens. So, as you can see, operations will be as per normal, just under a different corporate entity altogether, because this will all be under Nippon Steel. Japanese steelmaker will also get an important foothold in the U.S. that helps to avoid the Trump's 50% steel tariffs that's been making headlines in recent months. So the transaction closes 18 months after the companies first announced their surprising tie-up, an unprecedented timeline that veteran traders have called it one of the most unique they've ever witnessed.
Yeah, this is a very interesting deal as well because of the sensitivity of the industries, because steel is one of the big industries in the US. They try to normally protect from outside ownership. So there's all this back and forth about whether they should let foreign control come in. So that's why there was a lot of, I suppose, controversy behind whether Nippon Steel would be able to go through this. So that's a bit of a milestone that it has now finally managed to push it over the finishing line.
Certainly so. I mean, a lot of these U.S. presidents from the likes of President Joe Biden and U.S. President Donald Trump, this is the one thing that they could agree on, that, you know, putting America's largest steel producers under foreign control would create risk for their national security and critical supply chains. But Trump's decision came after the case was referred to him by a U.S. security panel review, and it does seem like, you know, the controversial countless hours of negotiations with U.S. security panel, a union battle, an expensive lobbying campaign, and months of community meetings, after all, it did pay off. And certainly, it seems like it's good news for Nippon Steel after the companies reached a conditional deal with the Trump administration just last Friday that allowed them to complete a transaction first announced in December of 2023. So the most eye-opening offer and the company's promise was to give the American president direct say in a number of decision-making scenarios for the steelmaker in perpetuity.
Yeah, so it looks like he was quite happy with the deal, Donald Trump. Eventually, with all the concessions being made, including this big one that you mentioned, the golden share to make all these critical decisions.
Yeah, the golden share, it's pretty much a condition that gives consent rights to the U.S. president concerning reductions in capital investments, changing U.S. Steel's name and headquarters, you know, just relocating outside of the U.S., transferring jobs or production outside of the U.S., acquisitions and decisions to close or idle existing facilities. So it does seem like they still have a lot of control over what happens with the company. But I guess, you know, at least it's a win-win position for both ends. What do you think?
Seems like it on the surface, yeah, but I think it will come down to the execution, and of course, these things can play out in many different ways.
Yeah, it can get very messy indeed, but as of now, it does seem like good news for them, and Nippon Steel, with its biggest foreign purchase to date, is making a new bet within a new market for its high-end specialty steel, one that is intended to help the industrial heavyweight diversify from shrinking demand back at home and to help cope with competition from low-cost Chinese exports. So the acquisition will basically give US Steel an $11 billion investment through 2028, including a $1 billion for a new US mill that will increase by $3 billion in later years. On Nippon Steel's side, its annual crude steel production capacity is expected to reach 86 million tons, bringing it closer to Nippon Steel's global strategic goal of 100 million tons of global crude steel production capacity. So it does seem like investors are welcoming the resolution of uncertainty surrounding the deal as well, because we've seen how the shares of Nippon Steel gaining about more than 3% to 2,915 yen just when the news broke, and currently is trading about 2,705 yen. So it does seem like some optimism is still flooding into the gates of Nippon Steel, but some investors remain concerned about near-term financial strain from the sizable investments. Also, the US government's ownership in the combined company, also known as the Golden Share, did raise questions about the degree of how much it can control.
Yeah.
So a lot to weigh here, but given, how everything's turned out, 18 months long deal, and somehow it did manage to convince President Donald Trump, I guess my verdict for today has probably got to be a heart. Yeah.
I'm not sure if I join you there. So you pointed out a couple of things here, and this is a very big deal, $14.1 billion, all cash. So somehow they define cash pretty much to fund this deal.
Yep.
And then they've promised a lot as well, upgrading various factories and plants, a new steel mill. So you have all this playing out that they need to commit to. So there is this question mark, will they dilute existing shareholders if they need to raise new shares? So that's one thing I'm looking out for. And then the other part is how they're going to turn around the company. Would that mean cutting jobs, cutting something, just to turn around the US Steel side of the business, which has been quite sluggish? And then the price tag, I'm looking at some of the reports here, $55 a share is about a 142% premium to the last trading level. So this is before it was put up for sale. US Steel put itself up for sale. So you have a lot of big question marks that I feel are still left unanswered.
Okay.
So I'll give a nod.
Yeah, that's a fair point, Ryan, and it does seem like that might also squeeze up their purse strings for a while. But in the long term, I do believe, at least from my perspective, that this might actually pay off for them to expand outside of their home market. But yes, to each his own, and thank you so much for your verdict, Ryan, as well. As of the 19th of June, we've got Tip Ranks, Yahoo, and Barron's all giving it a buy rating on Nippon Steel, and that pretty much wraps it for analysis of today's Stock in Focus, Nippon Steel. Now, Ryan, here's some fun fact about Nippon Steel. Did you know that back in the 1970s, Nippon Steel pioneered green initiatives by planting Miyawaki forests? They are dense, biodiverse woodlands on former industrial wastelands at multiple plants, and that's helped to restore nature and inspire Japan's environmental movement. Quite inspiring, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit of CSR, nice.
Yeah. Okay, so what's another name for a 100% steel cage?
I'm not sure. A cage,
A Nicolas Cage. What normal bird has the strength to lift a steel beam?
I'm not sure as well.
A crane.
Okay.
And that's all we have for Nippon Steel.
Before acting on the information on Money FM, please consider if it's suitable for your own investment objectives, financial situation, and risk tolerance. To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.